from USA Today. Burger King UK under fire for tweeting. I can't read this quote. I'm going to break the quote up so that no one claims it came from me. Women belong, and this is Burger King, in the kitchen. And that's what Burger King said. All right. Now, I break it up that way because someone's going to try and pull it out of context and try and make it seem like I'm the one saying that. I do not believe women belong in the kitchen. I'm actually not. I'm a proponent of women succeeding in the workplace and getting beautiful salaries and, running companies. More to the point, we can all be proud of the fact that the military-industrial complex is now run by women.
Exactly.
Great strides in blowing up children.
Women are killers too, everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
Hey, equality.
But to be serious, they can be. You look at how the prison system handles women, and they treat women they get less harsher penalties.
They get more lenient sentences than men.
Absolutely.
Do for the same crimes.
Women can be murderers and criminals and all that really awful stuff too. They can be warmongers and weapons manufacturers and all that stuff. And Burger King thought it would be a good idea to claim that they believed women, belong in the kitchen. So USA Today writes, Burger King's attempt to highlight gender disparity in the restaurant industry with a provocative tweet appears to have backfired. On Monday, which is also International Women's Day, Burger King tweeted this out.
Yep.
I can't believe it. A bunch of nationalists and pro-Western personalities are saying thank you, Burger King, for saying what needs to be said. This is exactly what women need to understand. And it's oh, geez. And the left is saying, apparently Burger King is defending themselves. They're it was a good tweet that is bringing attention to the issue that only 20% of culinary professionals are women. And then the left is just so why did you have to tweet this sentence, which is not in any way conveying the message you think it is?
If it had been me, I would have said that I just would have called myself Burger Queen for a day, and then maybe that would have been okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Burger Queen.
Just call it Burger Queen.
Yeah,
Just Burger Queen for a day.
That's a good idea. They should hire you for marketing.
I don't think they should. But I saw it and I was like, this is hilarious. And of course, my first thought was, we got to keep it family friendly. It's so difficult for me. But it's just this idea that. It's well, I guess they could be in the kitchen if they truly want to be. What if they're choosing to be in the kitchen? Of course, when I let them out of the basement.
That's right.
Women have been fighting for thousands of years to get out of the kitchen and fight the patriarchy. With a single tweet, Burger King is trying to put them back in the kitchen.
I know. How dare they?
No, but it's even funny too. So what Burger King is basically saying is that culinary professionals tend to be men. And I'm even to that regard, is it possibly because we have socialized to the point where we're telling women not to take these jobs and to be professionals and go and work for bigger corporations? We have been screaming to our children, particularly young girls, be the CEO, be the high-powered attorney, be the executive. And so, these things have consequences. So now we're 20 years later, and you have a bunch of women who are going to school specifically for jobs that will make them a lot of money and give them a lot of power in corporations, not culinary arts. I think for a lot of people working as a chef in the culinary industry, it's very much about a passion for cooking and baking and creating food. And when you take these kids and you tell them you won't be respected, you won't make money, don't do it, what happens? You get a bunch of people who are I'm going to do what I have fun doing and what I enjoy doing. You have the stigma, for the most part, for young women being told you have to do more because you won't have respect unless you take these jobs. Men aren't hearing that, so they're I love cooking. I'm going to go cook.
Well, it's the strangest phenomenon, and I'm at an age now where I see a lot of new mothers, and I become disturbed on their behalf because they actually feel guilty that they want to spend more time with their children. And I'm thinking to myself, isn't the whole point of all of this is to provide you with options so that if you choose to, you can stay home? And I think this also speaks to something deeper, and it's sort of related to COVID in a way, the instinct that so many people seem to have to want to stay just stay indoors and stay away from just living their lives. This devaluation of life. I mean, my thing is, yeah, it's great if you have all these degrees and all these accomplishments, but I mean, every new father I've met has said, yeah, I got to keep working. I wish I could stay home and be with my kids. They understand the sacrifice that they're making, but I don't find as many women who understand that sort of cost benefit now. I wonder if it's because they've been told all their lives that they need to succeed. And I'm thinking to myself, well, we've known, you can't take it with you. You can't take all your degrees and all your money with you, but your children do live on after you.
Yeah.
I was doing these Shakespeare sonnets, and a lot of them have to do with just fertility and carrying on your legacy and your lineage. And they're very wise. They're these 14-line poems, and within each of them, he's addressing somebody. And at least in this first chunk of them, he's talking about well, you're young now, but you're not always going to be young. And one of the best ones, he says, well, when you are old, if you have children, then your own youth and the joyous time that you had in your youth will be reflected back to you, and that youth will live in your own youth will live forever through the youth of your children.
They actually call passing your wealth down to your child succession, and that's success. I mean, the word success comes when you succeed. You're sending all of your things to the next generation.
But even then, it's like, even if we're just talking about material wealth, I mean, what other kinds of wealth are there? There's what your philosophical wealth, your emotional wealth. Your ideas, your philosophies on life. And these are also things that you can pass down to your children that you can't earn in a workplace or at a university.
What blows my mind is we hear about this trope where people are on their deathbed and they say, a person on their deathbed never wishes they spent more time at the office.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The one thing we always hear is they wish they spent more time with their family and their friends and their loved ones. There's a story I was reading on Reddit a long time ago. It's about a guy who said that I think it was his grandmother showing him photos of him and his, of his uncles and his aunts or whatever at the Grand Canyon or something. And it was just a picture of the Grand Canyon. That was it. And the grandma looked at it and she was like, this is when, I was with your aunt and uncle at the Grand Canyon. And then she paused and said, why did I take a picture of the Grand Canyon? I don't care about the Grand Canyon. I care about your uncle and your aunt or whatever. And then he was like, that was the guy wrote the story. He was saying that was like a profound moment for me where from now on, whenever I do anything, the photos are always of the people I'm with, not the things we've done or the places we've been to. That's peripheral. That's the outside. The memories we have are the people we love and care about. So I'll tell you what really freaks me out, what I'm worried about, when we constantly tell women that they should be career women, that they're there's a feeling some women have of social stigma. I'm not saying all women. I'm not saying it's something that every woman experiences. But I've seen the conversations from women who are concerned that if they want to be just a homemaker, they'll be in some ways socially inconvenienced or face a detriment. Like they could get divorced and then how do they take care of themselves? Mm-hmm. They won't have respect from their peers. The issue I see is that men don't have the same biological limitation on having kids.
Yep.
You could be a 50-year-old man and have kids. But women do have that limitation. There are ways to mitigate that with like freezing eggs and things like that, but that is something men don't experience. So I look at these stories and I'm wondering if like the reason why, perhaps, I don't know, I'm not saying it's true. It's something to consider if people want to make sure they're happy. If maybe the reason why many women aren't in the culinary arts is because they're being driven towards certain professions, men won't be negatively impacted. They can trounce about, waste time, travel Europe, and just do whatever they want because they can choose to have a family at any point.
Yeah.
And there are very different realities for women. Call it the patriarchy, call it whatever you want, but there are certain privileges to being a man in terms of how much time you have to figure things out.
One of I have so much compassion because I feel like women have a lot of big decisions to make about how they want their lives to be. And they have a limited window in which to make those decisions. And they also need to make those decisions at a time where they don't really have the wisdom. You know what I mean? None of us have the wisdom when we're 22.
Or the wealth.
Yeah.
You could be a 50-year-old guy and have a bunch of money in savings. I'm like, now I can afford a kid.
Yeah.
I was thinking regarding restaurant work and men and women that, in my experience, they would stuff men in the kitchen and women on the front in the counter because women were beautiful and made people want to buy more, and men could handle the heat and the grease and the steam, and it's physically toxic, basically. So it might be a kind of job that men's bodies are just because like it's like working in the iron mine. Like you put the men in the iron mine.
Well, that's the patriarchy.
But
This
it's also
idea that-
biological in a way. I don't know too much about it to go too deep
Ian, are
into
you
it.
implying that there are differences between men and women?
Brett Weinstein, yes. Yes,
Just
genetically,
cite Brett.
yes.
Let's get Brett in trouble whenever we have a
Yeah.
Sorry, Brett, I love you.
I'm gonna. Well, he's a smart fella, so. But I would defer to him because it's like, you know, if the experts are saying things, but no, I think you're right. It is biological. Why is it that the service industry is, you know, tends to be female? You go to a restaurant, the serving staff. It's not always, not absolute. There's a ton of guys who are waiters, but you'll tend to see women taking service jobs because men will tip more probably, or at least is the assumption they do.
So again, at my job, I see this play out every single night. You have these men that show up of any age, really. A lot of them are older, and they're throwing all this money around, and you know, and I don't judge because I see how the game is played. We have all of these young servers. They're in their early to mid 20s, and they're beautiful, and they each have their guys come in and they have these men wrapped around their fingers. Each of these men come in saying like, "Yeah, I'm here to see, you know, Tatiana or whatever," and they think that they, you know, that they are special to her for some reason. Now these guys, they're kind of scumbags, so they're going off and they're doing whatever they want with other women too. But
Right.
But you know, just what you were talking about, you know, they're making so much money, and you know, using whatever their wiles are, and also a lot of these guys come in, they show up. Now, I don't know if they're paying for this company or if they're actually winning this company, you know. But you know, these guys with the money show up with women that are half their age, and it's a really, it's the kind of thing that you read about, and you're like, that doesn't really happen that often. But then you see it unfold, and it's kind of weird. But it's like, I guess I kind of get it. That's just sort of how the game is played. But it's not something that people like to talk about because it's not politically correct. I'm like, well, there's nothing about the interaction between the sexes that is politically correct.
Right. Yeah, I can't remember what I was watching, but it was like some movie where there was an old guy who hired a lady of the night, as it were. And he didn't want to hook up with her. He just like hung out with her and talked about his day and his life. And it was basically like the plot line was
Autobiography.
He was like 60 years old. He didn't have any friends, and he liked, you know, he felt he got good feelings being in the company of a young woman who he could talk about himself and have someone listen to him. And I'm like, for these guys, you call them scumbags, probably, but I don't really see anything all that nefarious or wrong when they show up to this club wanting the attention of these young women and tipping them and giving them money or whatever. You can argue it's transactional or whatever, but they're getting what they want out of it. They're getting emotionally satisfied.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything illegal. The women are getting resources for providing that level of like emotional comfort to these guys. I mean, so I'm like, hey, man.
And these girls, I mean, look, we have to walk them to their cars at night because, like I said, you know, not the best kind of people that show up to these places sometimes. But you know, they're driving nice cars. They live in nice apartments. I'm like, look, you know, do what you can while you got it, and you know, make your money. I hope you know you're studying something else, but again, that's how the game is played, and people want to shy away from that. But
see, this is where the conversation ignites a whole bunch of the gender ideologues. They get really angry because, like we were talking about, you know, women can only have kids for a certain amount of time. They could freeze their eggs, but there still are, even with freezing eggs, there still are implications for having kids at an older age. Yep. And so what happens is we end up, for a variety of reasons, with the institution of marriage. And, you know, I hear a lot from conservatives. They say that women should
be in the kitchen,
get married young. You know, like I hear a lot from conservatives. They say women should get married young. And the reason conservatives say this is that as women age, they become less valuable, I suppose. So that's the idea.
It's a tough word to use, but yeah.
Well, that's like, look, you look at OkCupid.
Well, if you're talking about the sexual marketplace.
Right.
The biology of
I'm trying to be very, very precise with my language here.
Yeah, we're. I think we all are at this point.
We've talked about it with Jack. OkCupid put out a data set showing that men just message 22-year-olds.
Yeah.
You can think it's bad. You can think it's wrong. I personally don't agree. I don't have that preference for being a 50-year-old man. I would not want to be, you know, in a relationship with someone that young. Would prefer someone closer to my age. But that's what the data shows, and you can't make all men change. Like the Ryan Long sketch, you know. Have you considered writing an article about what men can do better?
Yeah.
Well, like it's not gonna do anything for you. You know what I mean? So this is why I think a lot of people would argue that marriage came about this way because it provided security for the woman.
Right.
So they have access to that man who will provide for them. And it's assuming, the woman wants these things. They're, by all means, women can do whatever they want. I just think that's one of the reasons it likely came about.
Well, it's funny because then, I encounter women oftentimes. And, and again, I mean, it's a byproduct of just being a curious person. And when you talk to people and, just non-judgmentally, and you ask them questions, and just over the years, I've heard a lot of women say, like, you know what, I'm ready to just not go to work anymore and just be kept and not have to worry about paying bills and da da da. They would never say that out in public, because they would get shrieked at by their friends. But I do think that maybe more women than not kind of feel that way. There's actually I have to read this paper, but it's called the paradox of declining female happiness. Whereas I guess you could say their rights and freedoms have expanded over the past few decades. Since the 1970s, they've been self-reporting ever-increasing levels of unhappiness.
Right.
I think I read somewhere else that about a quarter of women are on some kind of either antidepressant or psych medication or something like that. And and again, I talk to people, and there's all these stresses and all these things, and they're inundated with this news about how everything's wrong and everything's oppressed and everything. So I just.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.